You wanna guess the color of my underwear? You wanna know what I got going on down there?
Fashion Month is over. Hello, my darlings. Welcome back to Front Row with Audrey Charlies. My love, the lights have dimmed, the guests have left, and the industry, for a brief moment, is forced to sit with what it has produced. And what remains is not simply a succession of looks or collections, but something far more revealing, a sense of direction, or in some cases, a lack of it. Because once the spectacle fades, what becomes visible is not the noise, but the intention behind it. And this season, more than ever, made a distinction very, very clear. Some houses are still creating fashion, while others are increasingly focused on, let's say, creating moments. What we witnessed over these past few weeks was not a unified narrative, no, but rather a fragmentation of fashion in different identities. On one side, there are the houses that operate with control and clarity. For example, Yves Saint Laurent exemplifies this perfectly, maintaining a precise and disciplined vision that does not rely on excess to assert authority. Similarly, Dior continues to balance desirability with consistency, delivering collections that are both commercially viable and aesthetically coherent. Then there are brands like Balenciaga, which have positioned themselves not just within fashion, but within culture itself. Their relevance extends beyond garments into conversation, controversy, and visibility. However, not every house is navigating this landscape with the same level of clarity. Some remain technically proficient, yet lack of compelling point of view. Valentino delivered beauty, but little memorability. Givenchy stayed within familiar territory. Hermès maintained its signature restraint, though arguably without pushing its narrative forward, I shall say. And Chanel appears to be in a moment of transition, still searching for a fully resolved identity in its current taste. At the other end of the spectrum, the issue is not the lack of execution, but an excess of noise. Increasingly, the balance between fashion and spectacle is shifting. When the front row becomes more discussed than the runway itself, it raises an important question about what is actually being presented: the clothes or the content. Now that if Fashion Month revealed the state of the runway, the Oscars revealed the state of fashion's distribution. The red carpet is no longer a secondary platform. It has become one of the most powerful stages for fashion visibility, sometimes surpassing the impact of the collections themselves. This year offered several clear examples again. Tiana Taylor appeared in a dramatic feather look designed by Matthew Blasi of Chanel, a piece that functioned as a visual statement as much as a garment. Nicole Kidman wore a feather couture gown by Chanel again, reinforcing the continued relevance of heritage houses when they evolve with precision. Kate Hudson chose a jade green design from Armani Privé. demonstrating how structure and restraint can still command attention. In contrast, Gwyneth Paltrow opted for minimalism in Giorgio Armani Privé, showing that the absence of excess can be just as impactful. Anne Hathaway embodied classic Hollywood codes in a floral strapless gown with opera gloves. Elegant, though not particularly disruptive. Menswear also revealed subtle shifts. Pedro Pascal wore a custom look by Chanel under Mathieu Blazy, elevated by a statement brush that Camellia, suggesting a growing attention to detail within men's fashion. Jacob Elordi remained within traditional tailoring, which in the current context almost read as deliberate stance. Rose Byrne appeared in a rich embroidered couture gown by Dior, emphasizing timeless craftsmanship. Meanwhile, Chase Infinity embraced a more contemporary aesthetic in custom look by Louis Vuitton. However, beyond individual looks, a broader pattern emerges. Celebrities are increasingly searching for what may be called the defining dress, a look engineered to capture attention, circulate online, and secure a place in the visual memory of the event. Yet, this pursuit does not always translate successfully. What functions on a runway, supported by narrative, music, movement, and context, does not necessarily translate to the static environment of a red carpet. In some cases, the attempt to create an iconic moment result instead in something that feels, let's say, forced or worse and intentionally performative. There is a fine balance between intention and ease. When a look is overly constructed to be memorable, it risks losing authenticity. And in today's visual culture, where every image is instantly circulated, that imbalance can quickly transform a fashion statement into a moment of, let's be shady, unintended irony. This is where the distinction lies. Not every runway piece belongs on a red carpet, and not every red carpet moment requires couture. The most successful looks are not those that try the hardest, but those that align naturally with the person wearing them. Now, let's go to Tokyo for a moment, okay? While global attention remains focused on Paris, Tokyo continues to operate within a different rhythm, one that is quieter but intellectually rich. Designers such as Yueki Ki presented collections that merge emotional storytelling with visual experimentation, blending folklore, fantasy, and contemporary references. I'm talking about Tokyo Fashion Week, by the way. Akiko Haoki explored themes of identity, conflict, and the intersection between, offering a more conceptual approach to design. Brands like Anselm focus on the passage of time through fabric and construction, while Tammy drew on uniforms and structured silhouettes to reflect ideas of authority and discipline. Haruno Bumarata approached design with architectural precision and facing form and restraint. The creativity is undeniably present. However, the challenge lies in the system surrounding it. Tokyo's Fashion Week structures appear increasingly fragmented, with designers operating both within and outside the official calendar. This raises questions not about talent, but more about the visibility, organization, and global positioning. It makes it difficult for people to follow. It's like it doesn't bring, how can I say this? While this is going on, for example, the medias or the magazine don't really pay that much attention. You need to be really into the system to be aware that it's going on. Meanwhile, when you have Paris Fashion Week, or let's even say Milan, everybody's talking about it because celebrities are attending the runways. So, that being said, let's move on to our next subject. Zara meets Galliano. To understand the significance of this collaboration, one must first understand the nature of Zara. Now, Zara was not built on the principle of couture, but on efficiency. Emerging in Spain in 1975 under the larger structure of Inditex, it developed a model centered on speed, responsiveness, and accessibility. Rather than creating trends in the traditional sense, Zara became highly effective at interpreting them, translating runway ideas into wearable products within remarkably short time frames. In contrast, John Galliano represents a fundamentally different approach to fashion. His work is rooted in narrative, theatricality, and emotional depth. At Dior, his collections function as immersive experiences, where garments were part of a broader story rather than isolated products. The collaboration between these two forces introduces a tension that is both compelling and uncertain. On one hand, it presents an opportunity to bring narrative-driven fashion to a wider audience. Zara's scale could allow Galliano's creative language to reach beyond the traditional boundaries of luxuries, effectively democratizing elements of couture thinking. On the other hand, the inherent speed of Zara's model may conflict with the time and development required for Galliano's process. If the collaboration reduces his work to surface-level aesthetics, recognizable but simplified, it risks diminishing the very qualities that define his design philosophy. Ultimately, this is not merely a collaboration, but a test. It asks whether fashion can expand its accessibility without compromising its depth, and whether the boundaries between mass production and artistic creation can truly be reconciled. The relationship between fast fashion and haute couture has always been one of influence, but not equivalence. Fast fashion observes couture closely, extracting elements such as silhouettes, color, and proportion. However, what it cannot fully replicate are the underlying processes, the time, the craftsmanship, and the conceptual development that give couture its meaning. In this sense, fast fashion does not reproduce couture. It translates it into a more immediate, accessible form. The question is whether this translation preserves the essence of the original idea or merely its appearance. Oh Lord, I have a cold, guys. I'm trying to do my best. So, after such an intense cycle of shows, red carpet, and industry announcement, fashion finds itself at a point of reflection. The pace has accelerated, the platforms have multiplied, and the lines between entertainment, commerce, and design have become increasingly blurred. The next phase will require a decision. Will fashion return to a more focused exploration of identity and craft, or will it continue to prioritize visibility and immediacy? I don't know. At the present, fashion does not appear to be evolving in a linear direction. Rather, it's negotiating its future, balancing heritage with innovation, exclusivity with accessibility, and artistry with production. Guys, this was not simply another fashion month. It was a moment of transition. And the question that remains is not what was shown, but what will it endure? Guys, this was Audrey Charles for Front Row Confidential Edition. It was a pleasure. I will see you next week, same place, same time. Front Row